Okay, let's do one more example of graphing a rational function just to give you guys a little more practice. So first thing I'd like you to do is I've laid out each of the 5 steps, and in the Kaltura video I'll ask you to answer each one of these steps, and then I'll kind of walk you through it afterwards. So the first thing to do is to find the Y-intercept. So go ahead and see if you remember how to do that. Okay, if you don't, you should remember that you just want to find the Y-intercept, that's where x is 0. So you plug in 0 for x. So you should get 3 times 0 over 0 plus 2, which is 0 over 2, which is 0. So that tells us that 0, 0 is our y-intercept. Okay, next you should find the x-intercept. Okay, for the x-intercept you set the numerator equal to 0. Because if you set the numerator, if you set 3x over x plus 2 equals to 0, then as soon as you multiply both sides by x plus 2, that goes away. So you can really just look at the numerator. And so now we have 0 equals 3x, so then x equals 0. So that's our x-intercept now. So 0, 0 is also our x-intercept. So next up, you should look for the horizontal asymptotes. So take a second and recall that to find the horizontal asymptote, you want to set the denominator equal to 0 and solve. So go ahead and do that. Okay, so if 0 equals x plus 2, then that means x must be equal to negative 2 is a vertical asymptote. Okay, and then finally you want to find the horizontal asymptotes, if there are any. Okay, so recall that to find the horizontal asymptotes, you look at the degree of the numerator and the denominator, and in this case the degree of the numerator equals 1, which is equal to the degree of the denominator. So in this case you want to take the ratio of the leading coefficients. So the line y equals 3 over 1, or y equals 3, is our horizontal asymptote. Okay, so y equals 3. Alright, so let me just plot those real quick. So the horizontal asymptote, or vertical asymptote, was x equals negative 2. So I'll plot that. So that's our vertical asymptote. Our horizontal asymptote must be y equals 3. So maybe I'll plot that in orange. Okay, so at this point we figured out that our horizontal asymptote is y equals 3, our vertical asymptote is x equals negative 2, and our x and y intercepts are both 0, 0. So I've plotted 0, 0 so far, and I've drawn the dotted lines for the horizontal and vertical asymptotes. And now what we have left to do is just to plug in some points into our function and kind of figure out, get a rough idea of what the function looks like just by plotting some more points. And so what I'm going to do is just pick some x values and then pick some y values and plot those points. So the first point I'll pick is just somewhere far to the left of negative 2. So maybe I'll plug in like negative 5. If I plug in negative 5, I'm going to get negative 15. Negative 15 over negative 5 plus 2 would be negative 3. So that's negative 15 over negative 3 is positive 5. So negative 5 comma 5. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That'd be right there. If I plug in negative 4, then I'll get negative 12 over negative 4 plus 2, which is positive 6. So that would be 4, 6 would be right about there. Maybe I'll do negative 3. Negative 3 would give me negative 9 over negative 1. So that would be positive 9. So negative 3, 9, which is already off the graph. It's growing pretty quickly up there. So you can kind of see what's happening over here is that the graph is doing something like this. It's approaching the horizontal asymptote as x gets really big. It's approaching the vertical asymptote as x goes to negative 2. And now we want to plug in some more points, maybe to the right of negative 2. So duplicate. I'm just recreating my table. But now I'm going to plug in some more points to the right of x equals negative 2. So maybe now I'll plug in like negative 1. If I plug in negative 1, I'll get negative 3 over negative 1 plus 2 is positive 1, so that's just negative 3. So negative 1 comma 3 is a point there. Maybe I'll do, I don't know, 2. You'll get 6 over 4, so that's 3 halves. Maybe I'll do, I don't know, something a little bit bigger, like 6. If I do 6, I get 18 over 8, which is just a little bit bigger than 2. Something like that. So you can see that this graph over here is below the line x equals negative 3, and it's approaching it's below y equals 3. It approaches the vertical asymptote and goes off to negative infinity, and it approaches the horizontal asymptote as x gets really big. Okay, so that's just kind of a rough idea of how you would sketch these. You find the y-intercepts, the vertical asymptotes, the x-intercepts, the horizontal asymptotes, and then you plug in some more points. And it's a tedious process, it takes some time, but each step is actually pretty easy. So if you remember to make a table like this, it's pretty easy to hit all the points.